Okay, so hey guys, welcome to another classroom session. I'm not sure if this one's going to last as long as the previous ones, but I wanted to cover some fundamentals that might help you with just general assignments. And not only this week's assignments, we'll be applying it to this week's assignments, of course, but I'm sure it will help you in a lot of different ways. So what we'll be covering today, or what I at least want to cover, is that how we can, again, break up complex shapes into primitives, and how we can use shape welding and subtraction to do that. We'll also look at how we can tilt planes instead of mirroring complex shapes, which is a lot harder to do. And just by tilting planes and using projections, we can actually almost become or get the same results without having to draw too many guidelines. And then we'll go into a bit of gesture drawing with the mannequin and see where there's a difference between internal gesture and contour gesture. Okay, so let's get started. Just setting things up. Okay, so the first thing that I want to cover is what is known as shape welding, or shape addition versus shape subtraction. And basically, what it is that we combine primitives, where we use the simplest primitives to get new shapes in general. So this can be graphically, this would be represented with simple 2D shapes. Of course, we'll be looking at it in 3D, where we are combining, for instance, boxes and cylinders. Now, the thing is going to be that when you are looking at complex shapes, that you can, for yourself, problem solve the complex shape at hand and break it down into its most primitive. Now, its most primitive does not mean, and we'll look at this with an example in a minute, does not mean a straight cylinder and a rectangular box, right? The box can be manipulated in many different ways, as can the cylinder, right? And so that's what we'll look at. And that's what you'll kind of need to learn for yourself to do when you're looking at complex shapes. We'll also be looking at subtraction. So that's basically what we'll be doing with all these complex shapes. And so if we have a sphere, for instance, like this, we're subtracting a shape from it and creating, for instance, half a sphere, right? Or a quarter sphere, right? So that's subtraction. Same for a box. If we have a standard box, we can subtract something from that box and create a different shape. So that's what we're doing internally when we are looking at complex shapes. In the beginning, however, it would be good for you to train it using these simple shapes so that you can really get a good grasp on perspective, first and foremost, and just problem solving in general. Because all of this, all like drawing in general, painting in general, it's problem solving. And you'll begin to notice throughout this lesson in particular that a good sense of perspective is really pivotal in understanding complex shapes. Okay, so now if we apply these rules to the samurai helmet first, when I look at the samurai helmet, we have a couple of things, right? And I don't know all the Japanese names, but basically we have what covers or protects the head, right? Which to me is represented by half a sphere. No, Siri. Siri always wants to interrupt me. So we have half a sphere. And then we have the neck guard, right, which protects the back of the head and the neck. And at that stage, you already might have some trouble with figuring out, okay, how do I break this down into a complex or a simple shape? And when I look at the neck guard, what I see is basically a cone that is cut in half. So something like this, right? And that attaches to the back of the helmet. And then we have the flaps, which are called fukugaishi or something. They're there to protect swords from coming into soft tissue areas of the face. And if I look at them in the beginning, for me, they are just basic cylinders that have been manipulated. And we'll look at how they are being manipulated just in a minute. And then we have the front flap of the helmet, which is also, to me, just half a cone. Like this. And if we combine these things together, we basically get the gist of a samurai's helmet. Okay. Now, these are super basic shapes, but we can then use, because up until this point, I've used some simple breakdown and simple subtraction, but we can add more subtraction to this to get more complex shapes. So, for instance, the helmet basically stays the same, half a sphere, right? But then instead of this neck guards being represented as a cone cut in half, what it essentially is it's a curved plane at the back of the head, the helmet, that tapers out. And the way that we can represent that is by, and I'm going to use another color, is by punching a hole into this half cone, right, and cutting out this area. Right. So actually what you would do in a 3D program is you would create that half a cone, and then using another primitive, you could cut through that shape, and then eventually creating that resulting shape. So for me, that will look like something like this. Adding some thickness. Okay. And then the flaps that I've had represented by these cylinders, in essence, I'm taking away, or I'm subtracting almost everything from that cylinder, except for this part, right, which I'm keeping. So if we do that here, we get something that looks like this. And this. And then we do the same thing that we did for the neck guard on the top of the helmet, and we just cut away this portion. And we add that to the front of our helmet. And keep the center line. Okay, and so when we are drawing, or when you're looking at this complex form of the helmet, that's kind of what you should be thinking about to problem solve those complex shapes. You know, it might look very intimidating to a beginner or to any of you, because it's just an unordinary shape, and it's tilted in perspective, and you know it can shift all kinds of ways. So what I usually think about is exactly the assignment that I gave you on day 1.